For people who don't know much about you, tell us about your story.
Going into my 19th season as a charter captain. I fish primarily Lake Ontario, Lower Niagara River. I do some Lake Erie, perch, bass, and walleye, but
Hmm.
it's kind of sidelining a little bit as time goes on. I've got a 29-foot boat on Lake Ontario, docked in Wilson, and that takes up April through September,
Hmm.
pretty much all of my time. This time of year, I'm on the Lower Niagara River, fighting the ice, fighting the
Yeah.
conditions. But the guys have been fishing with me for a long time. February is one of the best times to catch steelhead. They're cold water fish. They
Hmm.
like the cold. Even though we don't like the cold, they love it. So, the best steelhead fishing is when it's as cold as it can get.
Yep.
Sometimes a snowstorm, shovel 4 or 6 inches out of the boat at the end of the day, and you've caught a pile of fish. So,
Yeah.
you know, give and take. But, I'm a local guy here to the Niagara area. Like I said, going on 19th season. So it's been a good ride.
Bring your ice fishing gear along with for the trip, and your boots, and you'll be just fine. We were talking yesterday. You're dodging some icebergs coming down the river right now. Tell us
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit about that.
Well, we've really been spoiled the last few years
Hmm.
without any ice on Lake Erie and warm water, warm air. This year it got cold right after, Christmas, New Year's, and it hasn't let up.
Hmm.
Every morning when I get there, the ramp's frozen, and you got to chip it out with a shovel or an axe, get the boat in. Sometimes if it's really cold overnight and it's an inch thick, you got to just back the boat in 3 feet,
Yep.
chip it, get back in the truck, back it in 3 more feet, chip it again, just so you can get your tail lights under, get the motor in,
Yep.
warm the motor up, and then you use the trim and the motor and gear to kind of break it up, and then you turn it and head into the river and into the icebergs.
Yeah.
But that's just getting out of the launch. Once you're on the river, those nights where it was down in the teens all night long, that
Hmm.
surface water freezes in the eddies and the coves and all the nooks and crannies, the upper river, lower river. So as the water rises a little bit, when they start letting water over the falls, it loosens up all that ice. But yeah, you're dodging icebergs.
Tell me about what your clients are saying when you're out there. I mean, obviously, you're out here doing this, multiple times every week. You're used to it. You know what to expect. But when you've got people coming out in the boat with you, I mean, what's their reaction to all this?
Some of them are surprised on the ice,
Hmm.
but it's normally like I have one of my regulars that books the trip, and he might bring a new guy with him.
Hmm.
He might bring a guy that's fished with him a while. So it's a little shocking,
Yeah.
when they see and they're like, "We're going out there." Oh yeah, it's just ice, you know. But I've got a Lund. Just take your time. It's aluminum boat. As long as you don't hit anything going fast, they just kind of roll off the boat, deflect. I mean, they get on your line while you're fishing, but
Hmm.
as long as you take your time and you go easy, you shouldn't have too many issues. But um, people at the people at the dock, because they always want to see the ice. So just regular people that are coming down, driving their cars down at the ramp, looking, and they go, "Man, you guys are crazy,"
Yeah.
you know. Got done fishing the one day, and there was an older couple. They pulled up to me, rolled the window down. The lady's like, "How cold is it out there?" I go, "It's as cold as you think it is." Like, how do you answer that? It's cold.
Right. Right.
But it's most of my customers that come and fish the hardcore winter stuff have been doing it with me for years.
Hmm.
So they got the right clothing. They know how to prepare for it. So it's not too much of a surprise for most, but you get new guys too that come with those older guys, and
Yeah.
it's a little surprising.
These are guys that have been hanging with you for a while, and
Yeah, yeah.
got some people just jumping in. Luke Gehring's doing a little snow plowing in Harbor Beach, Michigan,
Oh,
while listening to the show, and then Vermont Fishing Adventures. They've been with us all week long. Just want to say hi to you guys.
yeah.
Matt, you've been doing this for a long time. You've seen a lot of different winters. You're fishing the river right now, but you go out and fish in Wilson on the lake. Tell me about what you kind of expect based on the winter we're having this year. What you expect out in the big water this season?
Well, I mean, it's when you have a cold winter and a little bit later spring, normally don't see the salmon as early. The last few years, early April, we've had kings around. Um, this year, the water in the river is liquid ice right now. It's
Hmm.
31.7, 31.8. So if that stays around, the bait fish aren't going to migrate into the shore as quick. So you're not going to see that salmon migration as early. The brown trout, lake trout are probably already there now, just
Hmm.
waiting for food. So more than likely, we're going to have to just stick to our program, which, normally it's brown trout first and then lake trout show up. The last few years we had kings mixed in, so it was like you shifted. So it'll be more of normal.
Hmm.
You know, depends on when that ice starts to melt in Lake Erie, because when they release the boom, it's a boom that's pontoons that go from shore to shore across Lake Erie right in front of the upper river. So that holds back all that ice all the way down, past Dunkirk, which is a long way. It's a lot of ice.
That's a lot of ice.
So I think it's 250 square miles. Once the lake gets down to 250 square miles of ice, they start to pull the boom, and then it'll slowly release that ice. So our big fiberglass boats do not like ice. My aluminum boat is one thing, but the glass boats don't like ice. So got to kind of watch for that. You're also going to have to watch for a lot of floating debris that's getting pushed into Lake Erie that's being held back. So could be an obstacle course for a while of icebergs and logs.
Yeah,
But
what happens to that ice as it goes over the falls? I mean, you'd think it'd break up quite a bit going over the falls.
it will break up, but some of it's just so thick
Hmm.
that it breaks into smaller big chunks.
Yeah, yeah.
But not only that, they have there's a thing called an ice bridge. So below Niagara Falls, when you come to the Lewiston Queenston Bridge, it's a narrow area. It's
Hmm.
kind of a bottleneck, and ice will get jammed up in there and freeze, and it could get 20, 30 foot thick from that
Wow.
ice coming over the falls, just kind of just bunching up and sticking up. So they call that the ice bridge. Back in the early 1900s, like probably before some of the bridges were built, that's how they got back and forth to Canada. They would walk across the ice, hence
Wow.
the ice bridge.
Yeah.
So once that ice bridge lets loose, that holds a lot of stuff back. And when it
Hmm.
comes through, that's probably worse than Lake Erie ice, because you can get big chunks that have been sitting there for months and months not moving. So
Wow.
it's going to be interesting. But as far as bait fish go, everybody's worried about the bait fish. Lake Ontario still has 40, 42-degree water in it off of Rochester.
Hmm.
So those alewives and the bait fish are just migrating into that warmer water, staying put. They had a warm fall, pretty much a warm all the way till January, and then it just kind of fell off.
Hmm.
So they had a good growing season. There was a lot of green water, a lot of food. So as long as those alewives and the bait fish got fattened up before it got cold, they should make it through. So that's a big concern with everybody, is the bait fish.
Yeah. And you said that they kind of congregate in the Rochester area over winter?
Yeah, well, a lot of them winter off of the Niagara,
Hmm.
like out in the middle between Canada and New York, because it's a deep water that doesn't get churned up by the wind.
Hmm.
But I know that warmer water, you can see it on the surface topo maps, is off of Rochester. So if it gets too cold on our end,
Yep.
they're going to move to that warmer water. And the surface is still 40, 42. So they don't have to be down super deep.
Yep.
So, as long as they can find warmer water and they can feed a little bit and stay out of that cold water, they should be fine.
Very cool. Tell me about fishing in Wilson with you. What's that season look like out of Wilson?
Well, it's, April is typically brown trout season.
Hmm.
As you get towards later April, the kings will start showing up in bigger numbers, and we fish salmon. Most of them are right out in front of port until the water gets too warm. Once the water gets into the mid 40s, they'll start spreading out. They'll move towards Olcott, move towards Rochester, move down the lake. But our season, we have deep water pretty close to shore. So if we're out a mile, we're already 250, 300 feet of water. So a lot of our salmon migrate and stay right in that river channel coming out of the Niagara.
Mhm.
Wilson's 12 miles from the mouth of the river. So it's the closest port to the river, and the river has the green water, the warmer water. It's got the food for the bait fish, and the bait fish love it.
Hmm.
So we try to target that Niagara River plume of green water.
Hmm.
Most of our fishing until we get into mid-June is kind of right out front between there and the Niagara River.
I've fished that Wilson area in May before, but I've never been there in July. What does it look like out there in the middle of summer?
July is a really good time for king salmon.
Hmm.
So kind of what happens is a lot of the bait fish love to hang around that Niagara plume.
Hmm.
And it goes from our water to like Oak Orchard.
Hmm.
That's and then once it gets past there, that plume will definitely spread out. So as the bait fish are getting ready to spawn, they move into the shallower water, 60, 80 feet, and the bait fish stage those kings are right there, and they're right in front of port. July can be some of the best salmon fishing of the year because they're bigger then.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a couple months to grow. When those alewives migrate in before they move too shallow, the feeding frenzy that goes on, and then you get some steelhead mixed in July. You have cohos in July, so it's really, and we don't have to go that far offshore. Usually, last year we had predominant south winds, southwest winds, and it kept that river plume kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
We were starting in 40, 50 feet of water right out in front of port, and just trolling around and staying close. So, but July is really good. Our August gets a little tougher because once the water gets too warm and you get closer to that spawning, that when they're going to start to migrate, a lot of the wild fish that are born in Canada move across the North Shore. The wild fish from the east go back to the east. So that salmon, number that we have just slowly dissipates going into August. And we still have good fishing in August, but it's our pen raised fish, our stock fish.
Mm-hmm.
So up until then, we have a conglomeration of all the fish in the lake that are just feeding in that Niagara River plume. So, and the weather's nice. You don't have to dodge icebergs in July.
Right, right. So I know they do pen rearing in Olcott.
Yes.
Do they do that in Wilson too?
Wilson right now we pen rear steelhead.
Okay.
When they made the stocking cuts a few years ago, there were some kings in Wilson. They did a test program where they were stocking like 15 or 20,000, and I think it did pretty well. But when they cut those numbers down, they eliminated the Wilson salmon pen.
Gotcha.
So basically, the DEC right now, it's kind of like a safety in numbers program. So they have less pen sites with more fish in each site, so that the bird predation or the fish predation, if there's more of them, they can stay together and get the job done. But the Niagara River has a pen project.
Okay.
Frank Campbell and I basically run that Niagara River pen project, and the lower Niagara River guides help out. They help us put them in, take them out, and do some feeding. So this year we're going to have 90,000 kings, and we're going to get some extra steelhead. So we're probably going to have like 25,000 steelhead in our Niagara River pens.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're going to build yourself pretty decent return there with those fish. I know that again, Olcott, they've got it. You got your steelhead in Wilson. Tell me a little bit about your program, your summer program running out of Wilson. What does it look like?
Well, like I said, typically they're a little closer to shore. So my program, I start off 5 rods is my basic program. 3 downriggers, 2 divers. In July, I'll like to run flasher flies on my divers, and I run spoons on my downriggers. I like to stack my spoons. I use a product called a Liberator made by Romer. So it clips on and I can pin them. So I'll pin a spoon 10 feet above my main spoon on my 2 out and down riggers. Center rigger, I like to run clean. I just run 1 spoon on it. Sometimes I'll put that stacker spoon on there, but in my mind, I like to keep the middle of the boat open. So if that fish is coming from the port or the starboard side, if it comes through the middle, it can come through kind of without running into another line in the middle. So I don't know. It's just, us fishermen, a lot of us have a little bit of OCD.
Yeah.
Some of us have a lot of OCD. But I run 5 spoons on my riggers, 2 divers. If the fish are in that 60 foot of water, 50 to 60. If they go a little deeper, I'll throw a set of high divers in.
Okay.
I'm not a big long line guy. I do have them all. I've got a whole bunch of lead cores. I have a lot of weighted steels from 200 to 400, but I don't run with a mate. So me having 5 rods or 7 rods without planer board rods is just easier for me. And when the bite's good, you don't need more than 5 rods.
So keeping it simple, probably a little bit more focused approach then with just 5 rods in the water. What are some of your favorite spoons in the summertime that you're running? Like I said, you're running 5 rods. What you've got down there, that's got to be kind of your money stuff. That's your good stuff that you got down there.
I run a lot of Silver Streak spoons.
Okay.
Magnum Silver Streak spoons are my favorites. Some of the ones to go to, Green Skirt. Everybody knows that. I found that spoon years and years ago, and It's really it's not a pretty spoon. It's not attractive to the eye. It's silver back, silver front, and it's got green and chartreuse on the, the bottom of the spoon, but the fish just love it. So that's one of my main spoons. The green alewife spoon is another one of my favorite spoons. The green alewife is a smooth back spoon. So being a smooth back and silver from Silver Streak, it's very shiny. When you take that spoon and you kind of turn it, the back turns black. So it has a shine, but it has a black shine too.
You should come sit down because we're talking about your equipment right now.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Talking about the Magnum Green Alewife.
Speaking of Silver Streak spoons, here's the guy. Chip Cartwright joins us now.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, and it is actually pretty funny because he literally just said the word Silver Streak as you came around the corner.
Right around the corner. That's perfect timing.
So Matt, I'm sure Chip knows, but keep going. Tell us about your favorite Silver Streak spoons and what you're using out on Lake Ontario.
We've already talked about the green skirt.
Okay.
I think CJ painted it and come up with that crazy design, and and I think I think I brought its name to life.
You certainly have. That's it's been a staple for you for quite a while out here.
It's been a great spoon. Oh, we've got a lot of our water has color here. The water's green, and sometimes it's pea soup green. Those fluorescent colors and that bright UV that's on it.
Yeah.
Just they can see it, and they can see it down deep when there's not a lot of light penetration. Just been a great spoon. When the water gets a little clearer going into July, they kind of fade away from it, but we have other spoons to use. The Green Alewife has become my second favorite spoon. Like I said, it's a smooth back. So when you turn that spoon sideways, it kind of turns black. And then you got a really shiny flash and then black. Flash, black, flash, black. So we call it, hard to see, easy to find.
Yeah, there you go.
Because when the fish looks at it, it's like I can see it, I can't see it. I can see it, I can't see it. But when it flashes, it gets their attention. So they seem to just really hit that spoon hard because it's, easy to see, hard to find.
Well, I think it's the draw that we're just. Oh shoot, sorry. I was just talking with Jake, was in the booth, and Mark, and we were talking about trying to draw fish into the spread, and we were talking about, you ever notice if you got a rotator down there and that's not taking any bites, but everything around it is going good, and then all of a sudden, it hasn't had a bite. You pull it out of there and everything goes dead. That was the draw. And then they wanted something else when they got in close, and I think a lot of that is even like with the green skirt with the UV, where we put that in our paint.
Yeah.
So the whole silver part of the spoon is the draw. It's just like glow in the dark stuff. That's if the fish can see it at a greater distance, you're drawing more fish in. To me, fishing's a numbers game.
Right.
The more I can increase my odds of getting a bite, that's how I approach everything and try to get as many, fish in to look at everything. Not everyone will bite, but the more you draw in, you've increased your odds of getting bites.
Right.
I think that's where the UV comes into play, and and like you're talking, the flash on the back of the green skirts, it's just on and off, but it's an eye catcher for the fish to draw them in.
Yep. And then one of my other favorite colors is a yellowtail. There's quite a few variations of the yellowtail. There's a double glow, so it's glow on the back, glow on the front. And then they have a glow front with a smooth silver back. And then there's a pearl. And you've got the
we got antifreeze ones now.
Yeah, antifreeze. So, but it's got enough yellow and it's got enough chartreuse. It's got a little red dot on it, but it still has a minnow look to it. It still has a lot of silver, and it's kind of it's just it's not too much color, but there's enough color to make it work. So some days you just go from the double glow to the pearl glow, and you just throughout as the sun goes up and down.
Yep.
I'm kind of an old school guy. I stick to the old school stuff, but it still works.
We just got a message here from Luke Gehring. He says, greasy chicken wing, mag Silver Streak, everyday go-to here in Lake Huron. So, that's a message from a Michigander.
Just what Matt was pointing to. He's old school and doing stuff. A lot of the new colors that we do and stuff, they're based on old colors. Like a lot of the new stuff this year is, it's a Hulk pattern we've been doing the last couple of years, but the one that was good I pre-fished all summer in Ludington. It's a Kevorkian. I just put colored on the ends with some tape and the ladder backs. You know, so it's just taking a proven color. And a couple of other ones are just fishing machines, and we just add some color in there. So you're taking proven stuff and just tweaking, you know, to the new stuff that's available, different paints and tapes, and
Yeah.
you know, just trying some different stuff.
Yeah, you got to still make new stuff. You know.
Well, you know, it's so much different than when we started. You know, it's our 41st year, and you know, back in the mid 80s, you couldn't see 6 feet down in Lake Michigan. You know,
True.
that's why we went to the silver plating, just trying to get any kind of flash. Well, you know, we didn't have to run lead core then. We didn't have to do anything. You know, I laughed. My mom was cleaning out some of my dad's stuff, and we videotaped all our charters in the 80s and stuff. And it's like, my son was watching them. I'm going like, holy crap, if it were that easy then, you know, you put 5 downers down and a couple dipsies, and that's all you ran.
Yep.
2 o'clock dead flat, and you're hammering big kings.
That's all you needed.
It's like, you know, but Mother Nature changed on us a little bit. The lakes are a lot different, and so that's why tactics are so much different now. Just things change throughout the years, and just like, you know, all products, everyone's products, you know, new paints or new tapes are available to us. That's why, you know, things keep changing as we go along and trying to develop new and better stuff that works a little better.
Yeah.
But the old stuff still works great.
Yep. Then you got the UV tapes that you put over top of some of them.
We
You
do a
know.
lot of the tape, but you know, and we still put the UV in the clear when we clear everything. So I think that helps to get the whole spoon, like the green skirt. You know,
Yeah.
instead of just doing a piece of tape on there, do the whole thing.
Yeah, when you look
But-
at the face of that spoon in the sun and you turn it, it's got a purple haze to it. It's purple hue, so
Yeah.
you know that the fish are seeing something that we aren't seeing.
Right.
And you know, in low light conditions or down deep, they can see that UV before they see other colors.
Yeah.
So
But
Well-
still, you never know what the fish want. I mean, that's why we try to test everything. But it's like, you can paint up the prettiest thing when you're prototyping stuff. It's like, God, it's gonna be a fish kill. It's like,
Yeah.
forget it.
crap. The god awful ugliest thing that you paint up, like, why would a fish bite this?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't keep it in the water. Sometimes you just,
They
Never
have a
know.
different taste than we do.
yeah.
Chip,
Well,
I'm really glad that you came here today and you jumped in kind of when we were in the middle of talking with Matt. But tell us a little bit about how you got started in this. And I know I was talking to Trevor this morning, and I told me you were coming on. He's like, "Oh, you got to have him tell you about how he got started." He's like, he's been doing this since he was a boy, and like, so can you
well,
kind of tell us that story and just how you got going?
you know, all this started through my dad. He started in probably like 68. He got the fishing bug when we had our first big salmon runs in Michigan, and he tells the story laughing. No one knew how to catch kings back then, and he fished at a river up by Sheboygan, and called the Akiak River. Him and his one buddy were up there fishing. They couldn't catch a dang fish. He says he saw one. They were in the boat right by the dock or something, and big king jumped right up on beach into the freaking swamp. He said, I dove in there with my knife in my teeth like an alligator fight, you know, and wrestled out this big king. It was the first fish he ever caught. Had the bug ever since. And so that got him started. But we went through the steelheader, the Michigan steelheaders. He was big in that and doing everything. And progressed. I mean, since 70 or 71, he fished for Lure Jensen and did a lot of stuff with those guys. And he worked for Chrysler in the big layoffs in 78, 79. He got laid off, and actually Eppinger hired him to run that and develop a Great Lakes market. So he designed the flutter chuck there, then we worked with them for a while until that ended in like 83. The fall of 83, we sold a few lures, but 1984 was the first year we started making silver streaks. Here we are 41 years later. He's passed away. I run it for my mom now and stuff. Keep it going. And
Trevor said that you started doing this when you were 12 years old.
yeah, when my dad was at Eppinger's, we'd go to the shows. I was 12 years old. I'd tie spring wigglers. I had a little bench, sold them for a quarter. So they weren't real pretty, but I'd bake $3 or $4. I'd go buy more material and stuff, and then tie some more. And while he was out selling spoons, I'd sit there, had a little bench, and that was my start in fishing lures.
Yep.
Tying spring wigglers at 12 years old.
And it's still a family business. You said you work
Yep.
for your mom. I think you said your sister also
Sister
works
runs
there.
the office and
Yeah.
does all that. And,
So how has it evolved now? Like what do you do? What's your day to day?
um, you know, developing new colors and just
Mhm.
running the operations and making sure, right now I'm scrambling around trying to buy brass and get stuff stamped out for this year and
Mhm.
working with the platers and make sure we got stuff. Had two painters most of the time, but the second one, he likes to fish more than he likes to paint.
Yeah.
So he's the fill-in work. I got one great painter that's been with us for 25 years. He's
Very
the
cool.
machine and paints a ton of stuff and really, really good at what he does. So that's my day to day is just running the operations. And I still run charters a little bit,
Mhm.
not many, just a few walleye fishing. I go salmon fishing the last couple of years with my boat, but I don't run charters. I just fun fish and testing lures. Trevor says, "Oh, what was working for you today?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter. You don't got any." What do you mean?
You don't have-
Everything I'm running is for next year, so
Mhm.
I got no standard stuff on. I'm playing,
Mhm.
but that's the guys that do fish for me, the charter guys. It's like they can't always play when you got to. Your first priority is your customers. You got to catch fish.
Yeah.
Me, if I'm just playing, I don't. If something's going good, I take it off and put the next thing down to see how it compares
Right.
to what we've had in the past. Just trying to see if it's better, worse, what's
Mhm.
gonna work, where.
And you fish out of Ludington?
Last couple of years, I have. I did 27 years in Frankfurt, but
Okay.
when I bring friends up just to fun fish, it's hard to get a motel up there, and Ludington's a lot more places to go to eat dinner, and
Yep.
so
I was in Frankfurt this past August, and I can attest to the not very many hotels and
I love Frankfurt, but there's not many places to eat when you come in. If
yep.
you fish at night, and I have some really good friends of ours. They take their boats up to Ludington. He wanted to do Ludington, so I'm like, it's just a fun deal the last couple of years for us. And
Yeah. So when you're out and you're testing, how many times are you surprised by something working or something that maybe you thought would be really great that didn't work?
not a whole lot because after this many years, and like I say, I've kind of progressed, and now the new stuff that I'm playing with,
Mm-hmm.
it's just tweaks on old patterns and developing. That's we've been here so long, it's hard to come up with new patterns and new colors, or it's just sort of a twist on some different things.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, I mean, everyone's got patterns down pretty well and pretty good fish catching stuff. Sometimes you come up with something that's an oddball and it works pretty good, but most of the time now it's just small tweaks and filling in gaps.
Matt, you got a question for Chip?
No,
Something I didn't ask him that you're thinking of over there?
I don't know. No, he's with the new stuff, the same thing. Like he'll send me some new stuff and I'll try them out.
Mhm.
And they work, but I'm there to catch fish, charter captain wise. So if it's a little slower, going with Old Faithful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I like the looks of the new stuff, and a lot of them do work. There's a couple of the green skirt variation patterns with the green and yellow at the top and the tail with a UV tape on it, and it catches fish, but it still doesn't catch fish as good as the original.
Right.
But some days they want a little bit different look, and it'll go. So I try to test out the newer stuff too, but um, and every now and then I find one. I find a good one that works and it goes right in the arsenal. I'll call them and say, hey, this one worked good. I need a few more of those, and I think maybe you should make some more. So works out.
So where Matt fishes, he's got a lot of green in the water. There's a lot of nutrients coming in the water, coming down the river, and where you're fishing, probably much more clear. So how do those things differentiate what he may have tied on to the end of his line compared to what you may have tied on to the end of your line?
And I don't really pay a lot of attention to that. I go by more results.
Mm-hmm.
Even like for me this summer, we had a new one. It was a twist on the old tequila sunrise. Well, I did it with antifreeze instead of plain painted, and I put UV tape and watermelon dots on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we had cold water, but usually antifreeze for me in Lake Michigan it did okay in the springs, but it never did good midsummers and stuff. And I'm in Ludington in August now, and shoot, that was my hottest spoon. But normally I would never run antifreeze at that time of year, but we had cold water. I didn't fish. I mean, we were fishing 50, 60 down on the downriggers most of the time I was there. So that was a strange deal for me. But so I kind of go, like I tell everybody, you know, for me, I do a wide spread of colors in the morning, or if I don't have the information, you know, that I've been fishing this spot a lot of days, um, just try to narrow down what colors work for you. I mean, and everybody's different. What Matt works great for Matt. He's got a good buddy
Mm-hmm.
that he calls me. He says, all he orders is plain antifreeze spoons out here. Puts his own tape on them, does his own thing, but it's like, that's all he freaking runs out here.
Mm-hmm.
It works great for him. I'm like, not a great seller for me
Right.
midsummer, but that's why there's so many colors, because everybody has a different opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
Kurt's one of those old
Yeah.
school guys too. You know, he's got boxes of tape that are like this high.
Yeah.
He's got every ladder back known to man. He's got, you know, scallops and eyes that I've never seen. But he takes those antifreezes, he puts some orange tapes on them, and some have orange and green, you know, but he'll pair those, especially early in the morning. Early in the morning when it's dark. And Kurt also fishes a lot of afternoon trips. So that last light bite, you know, when you're fishing half an hour, 45 minutes before dark, and your fish finder screen is blank, and all of a sudden it's just like a Christmas tree, it lights up, puts those antifreezes down, and if he's having a slow day, the last 15 minutes, boom, fill the boat with antifreeze silver streaks. But you know, he's got his own program. He does his own thing, and him and I work together a lot. The Green Alewife is one of my favorites, but he'll put those on a little higher than those antifreezes, and they fire just along with them. But everybody's got their own thing.
Yeah. Well, we got a question here. Somebody wants to know what Chip's thing is. Scott Mikowski says, Chip, if you had to pick one go-to spoon for Ludington in the summer, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard question.
It's limiting you to one.
You know, because are you fishing early in the mornings or late? I mean, because it changes like
Makes a
really
difference.
All right.
goes
Well,
and-
let's hear
Hard
your
to pick
morning
just one.
spoon, and then let's hear your midday spoon.
Well, I mean, I'm an old hot lobster fan, and that was a good, which is a glow spoon. Was always good for me. But I mean, if you're gonna go there, blue dolphin with a glow back, it
Mhm.
gives you the best of both worlds. I mean, you can't go wrong. That spoon's been good for 30 years, you know. And even I did a bunch of new patterns in the Hulk pattern off of blue and green dolphins. Same
Mhm.
thing, twisting, which has been really good. But if I had to pick one, blue dolphin to glow back. And it gives
Okay.
you the best of both worlds. If you're fishing early or midday, you know.
All right. So you come up with new patterns, new colors every year. So what happens? Do some get discontinued every year? I mean, you can't just keep continuing the
Yeah.
SKU list, so
If they don't sell good for 2 years, then they kind of get
get moved down the
washed
line.
away. So everybody says, "Oh, that was my favorite bait." I'm like,
Right.
"Well, I never forget how to paint them.
Right.
I can still make them. If they don't sell enough, I just can't
Mhm.
store them all."
Mhm.
I mean, in 41 years, we've had thousands of colors. And you can't, you know, for us, we can't expect a store. There's only so many pegs on the wall.
Right.
They can't carry everything.
Yeah. You just get to a point where maybe one's just not selling that much, and like you say, it's not that it's bad. It's just that for whatever reason it didn't catch on. And a lot of times it comes down to like having a cool name, just having a cool name, or maybe that spoon catches fish, but for some reason when it sits on a peg and somebody's shopping, it doesn't catch
Doesn't
the eye.
catch.
Yeah.
Well, and the big thing now that how things have changed since we started, where it was all back then word of mouth and marine radio. Well, no one
Mhm.
uses the marine radio anymore. It's
Right.
all you texting your buddies or it's online chat rooms. So that drives a lot of the chat rooms and stuff. If you get the press in there and talking about colors and stuff, that's easily converted into the sales of the stores. You can see.
Yep.
I can watch the boards and see what they're talking about, and man, 2 days later you're getting the orders
Yeah.
and coming in. So that drives a lot of it nowadays. That's how people get their information. So and I get it all the time. These shows people sell me the one that's going to work. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that.
which one are you going to run?
Yeah.
Everything catches a fish. It's how long you want to drag around before it catches a fish.
That's it.
So
There's a spoon that you made years ago. sent it to me with a bunch of new stuff called Kato. And first time I ran it, nothing. And then we were out one day and it was flat, calm, high sun, gin clear water. I put that spoon down and instantly fired. And then I put it back down, instantly fired again. I think I had one mag and one standard. And before I lost that original one, I took a picture of it, I sent it to him, and I go, I need more of these. He goes, really? I go, yeah. I go, I don't know the name of it. That's Kato. I'm like, okay. But it's a metallic green spoon, and it's very shiny green. It's got some dots on, little glow eye, like a little glow painted eye, and it's just very unique. And when the fish want it, they will pick it out of the spread no matter where it's at. If it's at 30 feet or 60 feet, but it's high sun, flat water, gin clear. And then, a lot of the brighter stuff, the glow stuff, the green skirt, the yellow, they're not bit.
Mhm.
That one just fires. So, every now and then you just get something that's just different and it's unique.
Chip, one more question here from the audience. Martin wants to know, do you think the Spring King Run around Manistee and Ludington will be a little later this year with the colder winter weather?
Just depends on how fast the lake's going to warm up on us. I think, with this cold winter we've had, how long it's going to hold on. We'll see how fast we can get into Michigan City and start that spring coho and get Kings going. But as long as I think for us in Lake Michigan now, it's weather patterns or wind patterns that drive it more. It's driving the bait on our side or Wisconsin side. I think more of it. I mean, we had good winds and steady weather patterns all summer for us, and we kept the cool water on our side. The bait stayed in close. I just ran south and just played with. We had a great coho fishery. I just played in the coho walls
Yeah.
all year until I did my last weekend. We did a video with Ross. Came up with, he said, I just want some big kings. So I pulled an old Jerry Lee. I went right around the pier head in 50 foot of water and pointed north. And
the other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, and we're coming up on our next guest, but you guys have 4 different sizes, and we've been talking a lot of color here, but how about the sizes and kind of how they differentiate throughout your line?
well, we do the juniors, the minis, the silver streaks, and the mags. Juniors mainly walleye and stuff. So I got a few guys running them for lake trout and behind cowbells, but that's a unique situation. But the minis, a great spring king bait or walleye bait. And then the mags and the streaks, which last year I think, we used to sell way more mags than we did silver streak size. Last year I think the silver streaks we sold more of. So we're starting to downsize a little bit more on the size of the spoon. And I know a couple guys, Northern Lake Michigan, who were all mags, that they're running mostly streak size now. So, times change, the size kind of changes, and I think it's just opinions. It's what you have in the water more often.
Those usually
That's
catch
what
more
you're
for you.
You gotta have in the water to catch fish. So.
Yep. Well, Chip, really appreciate you stopping by and talking
Thank
to
you
us. It's a
much.
lot of fun talking.
Hey, man, thank you.
Appreciate your time, and
You betcha.
have a great rest of your show. Chip Cartwright from Silver Streak.